We got the final drop for Team of the Week, which means we can finally come together and predict Team of the Year properly. Or at least I think I can. Let's try to pick some of the best names for the best players this year. What's good, everybody? What's going on? It's your boy Rob, aka Roboto. So Team of the Year is upon us now that Team of the Week is basically behind us now. Team of the Week's final drop just came today on Tuesday. Week 16 and 17 came out. We got a whole crop of new players, and that's exciting, and we went over that previously. But now that we have all the names picked out for Team of the Week, the final 2 weeks, we can look ahead to Team of the Year. Now, before we jump into all that, just want to let you know, if you are new here, I appreciate you for stopping by. If you'd be so kind as to hit the subscribe button down below, notification bell right next to it, you get notified anytime I'm live with brand new content. Also, if you like what you see, if you like these predictions, if you like the names, thumbs up on the video. And in the comment section down below, let me know your predictions for Team of the Year. It could be one dude, it could be your whole offense, it could be a whole defense, it could be anything. Let me know what you think. Let's jump on in. All right, so as per always on this channel, you know what we like to do here. We like to look ahead we like to look back before we look ahead, excuse me. So in this case, we're gonna look back to Team of the Year from last year, from Madden 20. Going over the full team here, there's some positions that we need to make note of, okay? So Russell Wilson here, Team of the Year quarterback, Nick Chubb, halfback, Michael Thomas, wide receiver, Hopkins, wide receiver, Kittle's a tight end, Peters, Batonio, all the way down through defense. The one thing I do want to make note of is specialists, okay? So all the positions there are listed normally. There's one quarterback, a halfback, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. Defense is right end here for Aaron Donald. Left end was Calais Campbell. DT's Grady Jarrett. Left outside linebackers, Zadarius Smith. Middle linebacker, Kuechly. Right outside linebacker, Chandler Jones. Cornerbacks are Hayward and White. Free safety, Minka. Strong safety, Jamal Adams. Now, the specialists here are interesting because now this can bring a whole new crop of ideas and thoughts into stuff. But in particular here, Chris Godwin, he was the slot wide receiver last year. Tariq Cohen was the 3rd down running back. Patrick Ricard was considered a specialist, but he's the fullback. Mecole Hardman is the kick returner, but he's listed as a wide receiver. Everson Griffin is the rush defensive end last year, but he's a right end. But the rush defensive end could be left or right end, so keep that in mind. Rush DT, here's Geno Atkins. Sub linebacker is Corey Littleton, middle linebacker. But the interesting thing about sub linebackers obviously can also be safeties, strong safeties in particular, so keep that in mind. Jonathan Jones was the slot corner. Zane Gonzalez was the kicker. Trustway was the punter. So there's basically 3 faces of this. We're gonna go over all of them in conjunction together. We'll use actual stats. We'll use all pro teams. We'll use Pro Football Focus's teams. Just 2 things also before we jump into the Team of the Year predictions. I do want to just say I did bump the overalls from last year because it looks like we have a little bit of an overall increase and bump up, but I don't think I did it too much to where it's going to be anything that we can't manage if it went down to what it was last year. And also the other thing too, I tried my best to pick one dude from each team or as much as I could, but sometimes it didn't work out that way. So no, I don't hate your team. I don't hate your favorite player. I don't hate your coach. I don't hate anything. It's just what I was looking at in terms of stats and different sources who they picked for the all-pro teams and whatnot. And we'll jump into a bunch of different things and go over why each player was picked, all right? So let's jump right in. So first and foremost, we're gonna break down the offensive side of the ball. We're gonna start obviously at QB. My choice up top there is gonna be Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, somebody I kind of been penciled in here for a little bit just because of the simple fact that he is currently, or at the season's end, he was the leader in passing yards this year. And also it kind of makes sense from a MUT standpoint, right? If we look at it and try to figure out like who actually deserves an upgrade here, if you just go passing yards alone. I mean, touchdowns, he's up there too. He's top 10. He's behind Kirk, Allen, Brady, Wilson, Rodgers. So the only other competition he has here for Team of the Year QB is Russell Wilson. But I'm just gonna go with Deshaun Watson just for the simple fact that Texans could use one. He's obviously the passing yards leader this year. He completed 70% of his passes, which is pretty impressive. 112 QB rating as well. So Deshaun Watson had one hell of a year. I'm gonna go with him there as the Team of the Year QB. But as you see here, there is a strong case for Russell Wilson. I do think there's a strong case for Russell Wilson. Dalvin Cook is going to be the running back choice here for Team of the Year running back. I think this one's also pretty obvious. I don't think we have to kind of dive too deep into it, excuse me. But just for the simple fact that he's number 2 in rushing yards this year, right? Also, Jonathan Taylor just got a card. He just got the team of the week hero for week 17 there. So it kind of looks like it's Dalvin Cook's or bust. Aaron Jones, I would suggest maybe, but he's probably not going to make it just because another Packers probably going to get ahead of him there on team of the year. Third down running back now. Here's some options I considered. Number one was JD McKissick, just because he's one of the better receiving backs out of the backfield in the NFL. But if you want to go big name, kind of like they did last year, you know, Tariq Cohen's a semi-big name. David Montgomery was interesting, but he just got a card recently. Ezekiel Elliott, just for the simple fact that he's due an upgrade. He's also top 3, I believe, or top 5, I believe, in receptions among running backs this year in the NFL. And Nick Chubb also is an interesting name there. Just maybe he's in the running back mix, third down running back mix. There's going to be some options I have for some of these guys, so keep that in mind there. But those are my picks for the backfield. And one other pick, obviously, in the fullback range there is going to be Juszczyk. Fullback for the 49ers. I don't see it being anybody else. Maybe Ricard, but I doubt it. So moving on to the wide receivers here. We're going to go Davante Adams as wide receiver 1. I think this one's obvious as well. Led the league in touchdowns, I believe, this year. If we go check out his stats there on the receiving end. Other wide receiver choice here is going to be Stephon Diggs. Another guy, I think that these are just like the two most obvious guys here for a team of the year card, right? So Stephon Diggs was number 1 in yards this year. Davante Adams was number 1 in touchdowns. And also, obviously, the Packers were killers this year. Amazing season for them. Davante Adams, number 1 in tutties. And like I said earlier, Diggs, number 1 in yards. The only other options I considered as listed were on there. As we continue down, though, excuse me, I'm going to go Justin Jefferson here as the slot receiver, by the way. Fat chance, I think, that he wins rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year. I really do think it's kind of Justin Herbert's to lose, so maybe they give Justin Jefferson a bone there at slot receiver. The other two names at slot receiver in particular I was looking at, Cole Beasley, Keenan Allen. DeAndre Hopkins also as a potential mix dude in the mix here. He had a really good season, so DeAndre Hopkins maybe. Kick returner, I went with Andre Roberts. Yeah, Andre Roberts is number 2 kick return yards behind Cordarrelle Patterson. But I just put Andre Roberts ahead of Cordarrelle Patterson just because Patterson did recently get an upgrade with that team standout. But it could definitely be him, right? You put him up to a 96. His last card is a 92, so I could easily see it being Cordarrelle, especially if they give Diggs the wide receiver card there. But gonna put him there. Gunnar Olszewski, also Patriots punt returner, kick returner, could be in the mix there. At tight end, I went with Travis Kelce. I do think Kelsey's kind of a shoe in there to win it amongst the tight ends. The only, because I mean, just like he's number 4 in yards or 2 in yards, excuse me, receiving yards this year. Number 1 receiving touchdowns amongst all tight ends as well, right next to Robert Tonyan right there, tied amongst the leaders in the NFL. So those two guys, very impressive this year. Obviously, the other nominee there that I do have on the list would be Darren Waller. So Darren Waller could get a look there from EA as far as getting him an upgrade. I was a little concerned that he might get the team of the week, player of the week, one of these last 2 weeks here, 16 or 17, but Waller didn't. So he's definitely in running. Next up on the line, we're not going to spend too much time here, but I went with Trent Williams. He was the PFF choice here for the All-Pro team. I tend to go with PFF in terms of the trenches dudes over just the voted on All-Pro team guys, just because right here, it just makes more sense, right? Like all these dudes at PFF kind of actually research all this stuff. They don't, you know, just pick names that are maybe their friends or guys they cover. So I went with Trent Williams there. Backup, obviously the second option to be considered, Garrett Bowles for sure. Left guard, I went with Quentin Nelson. I did in particular. I know PFF went Ali Marpet here and then Joel Bitonio. We know Bitonio just got a card, but Marpet, I would consider Marpet as the left guard lock, but I think Quentin Nelson is a better name for the line, better choice for EA if they want to try to push some of those big names there. And as you notice as well, I tried to mention this earlier, but the overalls, I started off with 98s for the top 2 cards. So 98 Deshaun will be 98, 97s for the rest of the offense, 96 for specialists. The other 98 we'll reveal obviously when we flip over to the defensive end there. But as we continue down the line here, we'll just kind of bunch them all up here at once. Quentin Nelson, Ali Marpet were the last ones we went over there. Then looking at the center position, I went with Corey Linsley, just like they did here. PFF, Frank Ragnow, back up there. Ryan Kelly's an option too for the Colts. All these guys definitely need upgrades. Right guard, I went with Brandon Sheriff. But now that I'm kind of looking at it more and I'm waiting, it could be Wyatt Teller, but Brandon Sheriff They're both good options. Sheriff has a 92, Teller has a 91, so it could be either one of those guys. And the right tackle, I went with Tristan Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs is arguably the best right tackle in football. I'm not even kidding. He's a rookie, but he's arguably the best right tackle in football. PFF went with Jack Conklin, so I decided to go with Wirfs instead of Conklin, because if they do decide to give Wyatt Teller that right guard there, here's the breakdown. If McKissick is the third down running back, Sheriff will be bumped down and Teller will be the right guard, and then right tackle could easily be Tristan Wirfs. So that way the right guard right there is from the Browns, right tackle's from the Buccaneers there. So everybody kind of gets represented, one guy from each team there. So we have a left tackle, Williams from the Niners, Nelson from the Colts, Lindsey from the Packers, Sheriff or Teller from Washington or the Browns, and Tristan Wirfs there from the Buccaneers and or the Browns for Jack Conklin. So yeah, it's a little Ali Marpit's in the mix there. So there's some guys in the mix there. So that's the offensive side. Let's kick it over to the defense. All right, so we're switching over to the defensive side of the ball here. And first on the list is going to be Trey Hendrickson, left end. I'm going to put him at for the New Orleans Saints here. Hendrickson, if you go look at the sack numbers, excuse me, he's number 3 in the NFL in sacks right now. He's up there with some of the best and pass rushers in the league. He's had one hell of a season there for the New Orleans Saints. So Hendrickson, I'm showing him some love at the left defensive end spot there. Rush defensive end, I went with Myles Garrett. There's another guy that's among the leaders here in sacks and just overall great play this year. He's one of the better nominees there for Defensive Player of the Year. So Myles Garrett there, he's second team, obviously also on the Pro Football Focus team there. We also have Khalil Mack there off the edge. We'll get to him in a little bit. But continuing down here on the defensive end, Aaron Donald, I picked him as the 98 overall just because he is the favorite here to land both on the PFF All-Pro team. Aaron Donald was on the All-Pro first team here as well. And Aaron Donald is also among the league leaders in sacks. So Aaron Donald, big look there for him, I think, and he probably will be the 98. TJ Watt, I didn't pick him for the team just because he's my prediction for Defensive Player of the Year. I have all the awards predictions also in another video if you want to check that out. So if you're missing some guys there, that's where you might be looking. There's Myles Garrett as well there, 12 sacks on the season. So Myles Garrett could get some love. You could also rotate somebody else in there. Cam Hayward, obviously, if you're giving some love to the Browns on the offensive side of the ball, maybe you get Garrett out and put in Cam Hayward there. That's also a good option. Or Cam Hayward as a rush DT there, because I have DeForest Buckner and Chris Jones as the DT, rush DT. Buckner, obviously, one of the better DTs this year. Chris Jones also there. But Cam Hayward could possibly be the rush DT playing right end, left end, whatever side they want to put him on. As we progress down here as well, Khalil Mack, left outside linebacker. I think it's his spot to hold. I think he's the only one I kind of have in as a lock, would be Khalil Mack. Middle linebacker, sub linebacker is a little interesting, okay? So middle linebacker, I went with Fred Warner. Sub linebacker, I went with Jalen Smith, but you could easily talk me into going Zach Cunningham there at sub linebacker. He led the league, led the NFL in tackles this year. So I could see it. I could see it. There's Zach Cunningham right there, led the league in tackles. I could definitely see it. There's Zach Cunningham. Roquan Smith's also a good option. Blake Martinez, my guy from the Giants. If EA wants to really try to get one dude from each team, maybe they kick Fred Warner out, bump Jalen Smith to middle linebacker, put Blake Martinez there at sub linebacker, or even Jamal Adams, right? He had the most sacks for a safety in NFL history this year, I believe. So he had an impressive season. And I put him there at sub linebacker as opposed to strong safety because I have a couple good strong safety options. Right outside linebacker, went with Miles Jack from the Jaguars. Kind of got to give the Jags some love here, even though they had a horrible team. Jack had a good season. The other option there I have is Demario Davis. But if they give Hendrickson a card, would they give another Saint defensive guy a card? I'm not sure. I don't think so. So I just went with Demario Davis as a potential option there. As we go down to the cornerbacks. So corners are interesting for a couple reasons. Most importantly, because there's a bunch of good options, right? I think the dude leading the way for corners is Xavier Howard. I just don't see how you don't give Xavier Howard the nod here. He's number 1 in interceptions, and number 2 is JC Jackson. So I put JC Jackson right there, right next to him as Team of the Year cornerback 2. The only other guys here that I was looking at were PFF All-Pro team nominees there. Jalen Ramsey's out because he just got a playoff card. The other one I was looking at is Jair Alexander. He's one of the better rated corners according to PFF. And also down, if we look slot corner, I put Darius Williams, Bryce Callahan, kind of literally what they did here too on PFF with those two dudes as slot corners. So those are my options there for cornerback. Those guys can be interchangeable. Obviously, some dudes are playing more slot than others, but you know, in terms of EA, how they hand out the overalls, I think a lot of these guys are due upgrades. Especially, I mean, all of these guys are due upgrades except for like Darius Williams, but everybody else has either 90s or below. I think Xavier Howard, or excuse me, Jair's the highest one at 90. His most feared card was. So all these guys could definitely get upgrades for sure. Same deal here. Obviously, as we go up through, all these cards could definitely get upgrades. A lot of these cards are due for some upgrades of some sort. And finally, on the defensive end, the safeties here. So I went with Justin Simmons as the free safety here, basically because he plays for the Broncos, and I kind of wanted to give the Broncos some love there. But Jesse Bates could be a great option. Simmons could also be another guy who gets something to do with a potential card in the future in some sort, but he also has all the good stuff for the Broncos there. So Justin Simmons, show the Broncos some love. Buda Baker there, strong safety, 97 overall. I think Buda's a mix between a good name and also a good player. He had a good season this year. And Adrian Amos showing a little love there. He was also listed on PFF's all-pro team. So Adrian Amos, not a bad option there. He could get an upgrade for sure. Special teams, just to close things out here, I went with Young Wei Koo instead of anybody else out there. Jason Sanders is a good option for sure. And they have him here on the PFF All-Pro team for Jason Sanders. But I went with Young Wei Koo. I also went with Jack Fox. Jake Bailey there, punter, but Jack Fox as the punter from the Lions as the 96 overall punter. I think Young Wei Koo would be just a fun option. I don't think anybody would hate that too much. So there's the full team. There's the full list. Some of these guys seem like more of blocks than others. Some of these guys seem like very good options to potentially invest in, especially if you have, you know, some lower level cards or some power-ups or something like that. Remember, a lot of the time, well, last year at least, these guys didn't get power-ups at all. They just, you know, here's the release, go get these cards, here's how you get them through sets or rerolls, things of that nature. So it could be a good time to invest in some of these power-ups, especially if they're out there in the world for cheap. You know, I wouldn't suggest maybe going too crazy and investing in the higher cards, 92s and whatnot. But if they have lower elites or if they have power-ups and it's cheap, it's not worth it's not a bad idea to throw a little capital into that. That's my only investment tip for today. That's gonna do it for this video though. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Thanks for stopping by. That's gonna do it for the selections here. If you like the ideas, let me know in the comment section below, or if I'm missing somebody, let me know. All right, see you next time. Peace.